Commander Ryan Hale opened his eyes slowly, as if lifting a heavy curtain that had been pressed down on him for ages. At first, everything around him looked like a blur of pale blue and soft white. A gentle mist floated across his vision, drifting upward from the cold surface of the stasis pod. He took a deep breath, and even that felt unfamiliar. His lungs seemed unused, stiff, and slow. For several long seconds he lay still, listening to the faint hum of failing machines. The sound was uneven, like something trying its best to keep running after years of neglect. Ryan blinked again, and shapes finally formed around him, the metallic ceiling, the soft lights blinking weakly, and the floating dust glowing in the dim air. He moved his fingers first, then his hands. His arms trembled slightly. Everything felt heavier than it should. "How long have I been sleeping?" he whispered, though his voice sounded cracked and dry. The stasis pod released a long, tired hiss as its upper layer lifted. Cold air escaped in a lazy swirl. Ryan sat up slowly, every movement reminding him that his body had been frozen for, he wasn't sure how long. His last memory was the Terran Alliance preparing a desperate plan. A great cosmic storm had been approaching Earth, powerful enough to erase entire continents. Humanity's scientists had predicted it years in advance, but even then, the world had struggled to react in time. Ryan had been chosen as one of the commanders for Earth's long survival protocol. His duty had been simple on paper but impossibly heavy in reality: enter stasis, protect the vault, and awaken only when conditions were safe again. But the chamber around him did not look safe or stable. The walls were covered in thick dust. Deep scratches ran across the metallic plates, marks that were not there before. Thin vines, dried and brittle, clung to corners of the room. It was as if nature had slowly crept inside over centuries. He carefully stepped out of the pod. His feet touched the cold floor, and a shiver ran up his spine. The ground felt unfamiliar. Not dangerous, just old. Very old. A soft glow came from a nearby screen, flickering faintly like a fading memory. Ryan approached it and brushed off the dust. The moment his finger touched the surface, the entire screen cleared and displayed a single line. Stasis duration: 15,000 years primary system failure, 93% backup system failure, 72% Ryan's heart skipped a beat. 15,000 years? That number felt impossible. It felt heavier than anything he had ever read in his history books. Humanity had built the stasis vaults to last, but he had never imagined they would operate for such a long time. He touched the screen again, hoping it was a malfunction, but the numbers stayed the same. He swallowed hard. 15,000 years. Humanity must be... He could not finish the thought. He didn't want to. Ryan turned his head as the chamber lights flickered. For a moment, he had the strange sensation that someone, or something, was watching him. It wasn't a sound or a shadow, just an instinct that brushed against his mind like a whisper. He stepped toward the exit door. The panel beside it was cracked, but still barely functional. The door opened with a loud, tired groan, creating a gap wide enough for him to slip through. The hallway outside was darker than the chamber. Small strips of light ran across the ceiling, but most were broken. Ryan walked slowly, feeling the dust shift under his boots. The air smelled old, like forgotten paper and dried stone. As he moved forward, he noticed unfamiliar symbols etched into the walls. They were long, curved markings that shimmered faintly when his shadow passed over them. They were definitely not part of the original vault design. They didn't look human at all. He stopped to examine them closely. The symbols were arranged in spirals, with small dots radiating outward. The pattern seemed purposeful, like a message or a warning. Ryan reached out but didn't touch them. Something about the symbols felt alive, as if reacting to his presence. He continued down the hallway and reached a large door that led to the surface. This door was heavier, thicker, designed to protect the vault from outside disasters. It had no lights, no working panel. Dust and dried vines covered the bottom edge. Ryan took a step closer, feeling the same strange presence again, a sensation that made the hairs on his arms rise. He turned around slowly, but the hallway behind him was empty, silent, still. Maybe he was imagining it, or maybe being asleep for 15,000 years had affected his senses. He placed his hand on the manual release handle. It was cold and stiff, but after a moment of pushing, he felt it shift. The door opened with a deep rumble that echoed through the vault like a faraway storm. Bright, natural light poured in. Ryan lifted his hand to shield his eyes. When he finally stepped outside, his breath caught in his throat. The world he remembered no longer existed. The sky had a soft golden tint, unlike the sky he grew up under. Strange crystal-like formations rose from the ground, catching the sunlight and scattering gentle colors across the landscape. The air felt warm and carried a sweet, unfamiliar scent. Trees grew taller than any he had ever seen, their leaves glowing faintly with natural bioluminescence. Earth had changed, beautifully, mysteriously, and completely. But there was something else, something unsettling. Ryan walked a few steps forward and looked around carefully. The ground was covered in soft moss, but in several places he saw deep, curved impressions, as if something large had walked through the area. The shapes were smooth and symmetrical, not like footprints he recognized. He kneeling to examine one of the impressions, running his fingers along its edge. It felt warm, as if whatever made it had passed recently. A soft hum echoed behind him. Ryan stood up quickly and turned around. Floating several meters away was a small drone, sleek, silver, and unlike any Terran technology he had ever seen. It hovered silently, turning slightly as if observing him. A blue light in its center pulsed in a slow, steady rhythm. Ryan froze. He didn't sense danger, but he felt cautious. The drone projected a symbol into the air, a glowing hologram. Ryan's eyes widened. The symbol matched the markings he had seen inside the vault. So whoever made the symbols also created this drone. The drone pulsed again, brighter this time. It seemed surprised by something. Then, without warning, it turned and drifted away quickly, disappearing into the glowing forest. Ryan watched it vanish among the tall trees. He let out a slow breath. "Someone knows I'm awake," he whispered. The wind shifted, carrying a gentle whisper through the forest. The leaves rustled in a melody that felt almost intentional, almost like a message. The presence he had been feeling since the moment he awakened seemed stronger now, closer, watching him not with hostility, but with deep, patient curiosity. Ryan looked up at the sky, at the strange world around him, and then back at the entrance of the ancient vault. 15,000 years had passed. Humanity was gone. Earth had new inhabitants, and something old and silent, had been waiting for the day he opened his eyes. Ryan took a deep breath. Whatever answers existed, they were not inside the vault. They were out here, in this transformed world. He tightened his grip on the strap of his uniform and stepped forward, letting the warm wind guide him deeper into the glowing forest. His long sleep was over, and his new journey had just begun. Ryan moved through the glowing forest with slow, careful steps. The world around him felt peaceful, yet filled with quiet tension, as if every leaf and every breeze carried secrets from long before he woke. The tall trees shimmered with soft light that shifted like gentle waves. Their leaves emitted a faint glow, enough to guide him without any other source of brightness. He paused near a wide tree trunk, running his hand over its smooth surface. It felt warm, almost like it recognized the touch of a living hand. Small lines ran across its bark, forming patterns that reminded him of constellations he once studied in the Terran Academy. "This is not Earth as I knew it," he whispered. Every step he took revealed more of the transformed world. Plants rose in spirals, some shaped like delicate glass. Strange insects glided through the air, leaving trails of light behind them. A soft humming sound came from clusters of floating seeds that drifted like tiny lanterns. Everything felt alive in a way the old Earth never had. But along with the beauty came signs of an older, forgotten story. Ryan reached a clearing where the ground opened into a wide plain. In the distance, he saw the crumbling outline of a human structure, a building with familiar design, though nature had claimed most of it. Vines curled around the broken walls. Only pieces of the original metal frame remained visible. Ryan approached the ruins quietly. His heart tightened as he entered through what used to be a doorway. The inside was dim, lit only by the glow of the plants growing through the broken ceiling. Dust lay thick on the ground. Tables and consoles had collapsed long ago. He knelt beside a broken panel and brushed away dirt. The emblem on it was still faintly visible. Terran Research Division, Earth Branch Facility, 07A. This must have been one of our early outposts, he murmured. But how long ago was it abandoned? He stood again and looked around. Every piece of the environment carried the same message. Humans had once been here, but they were no longer a part of this world. A soft breeze passed through the broken windows, carrying a distant hum, the same type of hum he had heard earlier. But this one was deeper, fuller, not mechanical, almost like a living call. He stepped back outside and followed the sound through the tall grass. As he walked, he noticed more strange impressions in the soil. Some were curved, some circular, and some shaped like smooth grooves left behind by large moving creatures. None looked familiar. Ryan studied one larger footprint carefully. It was nearly 2 meters long. The edges glowed faintly, as if the creature's movement had activated some energy in the ground itself. This world evolved without us, he realized, or with someone else guiding it. The hum grew louder. Ryan ducked behind a cluster of crystalline flowers and peeked through them. In the sky above, a metallic shape floated silently. Not the small drone he had seen earlier. This one was larger, shaped like a silver crescent with soft blue lines running across its surface. It glided like it was part of the wind. Ryan held his breath. The craft scanned the ground with a gentle beam of light. When the light touched the plants, they shifted slightly, as if responding to the scan. What is it looking for? He wondered. He remained hidden as the craft passed overhead. Its presence felt calm, not hostile, but it carried the same type of energy as the drone, the same pattern, the same shimmer. Whoever created the symbols and machines clearly controlled much of the world now. When the craft drifted away, Ryan stood again and continued walking. After nearly an hour of exploring, he reached another abandoned human site, this time a large plaza with pieces of old statues and rusted metal plates. Names were engraved on some of the plates, but the letters were faded. He knelt near one. Ariel Hahn, lead engineer, Earth Renewal Project. He placed his hand gently on the plate. Ariel had been a leader in developing the stasis vaults. Ryan remembered seeing her in briefings. Her smile had always carried quiet confidence. Seeing her name in ruins felt like a heavy reminder of how many centuries had passed. "This was once our world," he said softly. "But humans, we left something behind that could not last." He stood and continued exploring the plaza. Broken displays lay scattered across the ground, covered by layers of moss. A collapsed tower leaned against a tree that had grown tall enough to pierce the sky. But something else caught his eye. A row of small, white stones arranged in a curved line, forming a pattern that looked too precise to be natural. He crouched to inspect them. The stones formed a symbol he recognized, the same spiral and dots pattern from inside the vault. He slowly traced the outline with his finger, not touching the stones, but following their shape. The pattern seemed like a message, but a message left for whom? As he leaned back, he felt a soft vibration under his feet, like a heartbeat through the ground. It lasted only a second. He stood up quickly and scanned the area. Nothing moved, no shadows, no figures, no machines. But the presence was back, stronger than ever. Ryan took a deep breath. "I know you're there," he said quietly. "You've been following me since I woke up." Silence answered him. Then a sharp metallic sound cut through the air. Ryan turned and saw another drone, smaller than the first but shaped differently. This one had wings that folded and unfolded gently, like a mechanical bird. It hovered close to him. Ryan remained calm. He raised his hands slowly to show he meant no harm. The drone circled him once, scanning him with a pale green beam. After a moment, it emitted a short, soft tone, almost like approval. Then it projected an image into the air. At first, the image looked like swirling light, but as the pattern formed, Ryan recognized it instantly. It was a map of Earth. But the continents were changed, shifted, cracked, reshaped. The oceans had different outlines. Islands floated where none had existed before. New land masses appeared. One region on the map glowed brighter than the rest. A marked location. The drone hovered in front of him and pulsed twice, as if urging him to follow the message. "You want me to go there?" Ryan asked. The drone pulsed again. He nodded slowly. "Why? Who wants me to see this?" The drone gave no answer. Instead, it folded its wings and flew away quickly, leaving a soft trail of green light behind. Ryan stared at the fading trail. Something, or someone, wanted him to go to that place. Whether it was a warning, an invitation, or a trap, he couldn't tell. But he needed answers more than anything, and the location the drone showed was his only lead. He turned his attention toward the glowing horizon. The marked region looked far away, possibly across mountains or oceans. He didn't know how he would reach it. He didn't know what dangers the new Earth held. But he knew staying still would bring nothing. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. As he walked away from the ruined plaza, the sky above darkened slightly, shifting into soft shades of purple. The glowing plants brightened with the change, illuminating the ground with gentle light. Somewhere in the distance, he heard a low rhythmic sound, like drums echoing across the land. It made the air vibrate faintly. Ryan paused and listened. The sound was far away but steady, not chaotic, not threatening, almost ceremonial. "Are there people out here?" he whispered. "Or something like people?" The wind answered with a quiet rustle. He began walking again. With every step, the presence he felt earlier seemed to follow him, never close enough to see, but always near enough to sense. It watched him with patience, with curiosity, and perhaps with expectation. As Ryan continued deeper into the transformed world, he couldn't escape the feeling that he was not simply exploring a changed Earth. He was walking into a story that had been waiting for him for 15,000 years, a story written by hands he had never known, a story he was now part of. Ryan traveled across the glowing plains with slow but steady steps. The sky above him shifted colors as the hours passed, soft gold during the day, then gentle purple as the light dimmed. Even in the evening, the world never became completely dark. The plants, trees, and distant hills all glowed with natural light, creating a calm and dreamlike landscape. He kept the memory of the drone's map fixed in his mind. The marked location seemed far away, but he felt a quiet pull toward it, like a thread tugging him forward. As he walked, he continued to feel the same gentle presence around him. It did not frighten him anymore. Instead, it seemed to guide him, making sure he didn't wander too far from the correct path. After several hours, Ryan reached a different type of terrain. The ground sloped downward into a valley filled with thin silver trees. Their leaves were shaped like long ribbons, swaying softly even without wind. Tiny lights floated between them, blinking slowly like drifting stars. Ryan paused at the edge of the valley. A soft whisper seemed to pass through the air, so faint he wasn't even sure if it was real or imagination. He stepped inside. The silver trees created long lines, forming quiet aisles that felt almost sacred. His footsteps made no sound on the soft ground. The air was cooler here, carrying a slight echo of distant chimes. As he walked deeper into the valley, he thought of the humans who lived before the storm. His people, his friends, the scientists and engineers who had worked tirelessly to protect Earth. What had happened to them after the storm passed? Did they survive for a time? Did their children build something new? Or had the world changed too much, too quickly? A sudden crackling sound broke his thoughts. He froze. Something moved in the trees ahead. Not fast, slow, cautious, as if observing him from behind the silver trunks. Ryan kept his voice calm. "I know you're there. It's all right. I mean no harm." The movement stopped. For a moment, the valley returned to silence. Then, from behind a tree, a shape stepped forward, re-intensed, not from fear, but from surprise. It was not a human, but it was not a machine either. The figure stood taller than Ryan, with long, graceful limbs and a soft glow around its body. Its form looked partly physical and partly like shimmering light, as if its outline was gently shifting with every breath. Its face had smooth features. No sharp angles, no threatening expressions, only calm, curious eyes that glowed like pale blue crystals. The being tilted its head slightly, studying him with quiet interest. Ryan exhaled slowly. You're alive. You're real." The being took a few steps closer. It moved with a calm, floating motion, almost like it was gliding rather than walking. It stopped a short distance from Ryan and raised one hand slowly, not in threat, but as a greeting. A soft light surrounded its hand, swirling in gentle patterns. Ryan watched the light carefully. The patterns looked familiar, spirals, dots, and flowing lines. The same symbols that appeared inside the vault and around the ruins. "You left those marks," Ryan whispered. "It was you. Or your people." The being's eyes brightened slightly. It pointed toward Ryan, then placed a hand over its own chest, as if saying, "We know who you are." Before Ryan could speak again, the being's other hand lifted and projected an image into the air. The light formed a scene, a large structure, oval-shaped and glowing with soft blue light, the marked location from the drone's map. Ryan stared at it. "You want me to go there?" The being nodded slowly. "But why? What is there? Answers?" The being lowered its hand. The image faded. Then, with a gentle movement, it touched the ground. A faint ripple spread through the soil, traveling like a wave. The trees around them responded. Their leaves shone brighter, and the floating lights rose higher into the air. Ryan felt the same presence again, stronger than before, not threatening, more like a message being passed through the world itself. "Something is waiting for me there," he whispered. The being stepped back and pointed toward the end of the valley. It tilted its head, waiting. Ryan realized it wanted him to follow the path ahead. He nodded. "I'll go." The being bowed its head slightly, a gesture of respect, then moved backward until its body blended with the light of the silver trees. Within seconds, it had dissolved into the soft glow of the valley, disappearing completely. Ryan stood alone, but not afraid. He felt more certain now than ever. This world had changed drastically, yet it held peaceful life connected to the old symbols and the silent watchers. As he walked out of the valley, the light dimmed behind him, returning to its usual gentle glow. He began his journey toward the marked location. Hours later, Ryan reached the edge of a wide cliff. Below him stretched a massive landscape of rolling hills and shimmering rivers. Strange crystal formations rose from the ground like tall, thin towers. They reflected the sky's colors, creating a rainbow-like mist above them. But something else caught his attention. A broken human tower stood near the base of the cliff, half buried in the ground. It was tall, made of old Terran metal, and clearly built before his long sleep. A faint emblem was visible on its side. Ryan felt a rush of emotion, another remnant of humanity. He climbed down the rocky path to reach it. The tower had a large opening at its base where the metal had split. Inside, there were broken consoles, shattered glass, and thick layers of dust. But in one corner, he noticed a small device still glowing softly, a beacon. Ryan approached carefully. The beacon flickered with weak blue light. When he touched it, the light stabilized for a moment and then projected a faded message. A human voice echoed, weak, static-filled, but undeniably human. If anyone finds this. We held on for as long as we could. The others moved east, searching for a safer place. New life appeared, peaceful, but we did not understand it fully. Ryan leaned closer. A message from survivors. The voice continued clearer for a moment. We built shelters using old technology, but the world changed faster than we could adapt. If you wake up, Commander Hale, follow the signals. They will guide you. Then the beacon lost power. The light faded. Ryan stood still, heart heavy and hopeful at the same time. Some humans had survived for a while. They had left signs for him, and the glowing beings of this new world seemed to understand those signs. The path ahead was no longer just a search for answers. It was now a journey to uncover what had become of his people. Ryan stepped out of the old tower and looked toward the distant horizon. The map's marked location glowed in his memory like a gentle beacon. He began walking again, guided by the soft breeze, the strange symbols, and the quiet presence that never left him. And somewhere far away, in the glowing forests and silent valleys, unseen eyes watched him with calm patience. Not as an enemy, not as a stranger, but as someone they had been waiting for a very long time. Ryan continued his journey across the transformed Earth, guided by the distant memory of the drone's map and the gentle presence that always followed him. The landscape changed slowly as he moved forward. The glowing plains turned into rolling hills filled with golden grass. The hills swayed together like waves, creating soft patterns of movement. Though the world felt peaceful, Ryan sensed he was getting closer to something important. Each step brought a strange whisper through the air, as if the land itself recognized him. The presence he had felt since waking from the stasis vault grew stronger, more focused. By early evening, Ryan reached a wide river with water so clear it reflected the sky perfectly. Thin beams of light rose from the water like columns, dancing slowly above the surface. He knelt beside the water and touched it gently. It was cool and smooth, yet thicker than normal water, almost like a mixture of liquid and soft energy. This world. It grew into something new, he whispered. As he stood again, he saw a path of stepping stones crossing the river. They were arranged too neatly to be natural. The stones glowed softly, forming a bright trail across the water. Another message, Ryan murmured. He stepped onto the first stone. It lit up brighter under his foot. He moved to the next. It glowed too, warm, gentle, welcoming. Halfway across, he paused. He felt the presence again, right behind him. Ryan turned slowly. Standing at the riverbank was one of the glowing beings, taller than the one he had met in the valley. Its form shimmered with blue and silver light. Its eyes shone softly as it watched him, calm and observant. Ryan raised a hand in greeting. "You again," Or one of your kind." The being did not move closer, but it raised one hand and touched its own chest, as if acknowledging his presence. "You've been watching me," Ryan said, "guiding me." The being lowered its hand, then pointed toward the far side of the river, toward the direction Ryan was already heading. Ryan nodded. "You want me to keep going." The being dipped its head slightly. Then, without making a sound, it dissolved into soft trails of light, disappearing into the air like a fading wave. Ryan inhaled slowly. The silent guardians of this world clearly had a purpose for him. They communicated not with words, but with symbols, gestures, and calm guidance. He finished crossing the river and continued forward. The land ahead rose into a forest unlike anything he had seen since waking. The trees were tall and thin, with wide, circular leaves arranged like layered discs. Between the trees, transparent strands of light floated down from above like gentle rain. The air smelled fresh, almost sweet, with a quiet hum that came from deep within the forest. Ryan entered cautiously. Inside, the forest felt alive on every level. The trees lit up when he passed, their leaves brightening in rings. Soft vibrations traveled through the ground. Small glowing insects drifted above him like drifting sparks. As he walked deeper, he noticed patches of old stone carved with symbols, the same spirals and dots he had seen since the beginning. Some stones were tall pillars, others lay flat on the ground, half covered by moss. But one symbol appeared more often than the rest, a large spiral with 3 sharp lines crossing it. Ryan paused and touched one of the stones. "Is this your writing?" he whispered. "Or ours? Or something both sides left behind?" He stood up and continued along the soft forest trail. For nearly an hour, the pattern of trees and lights continued unchanged. But then, suddenly, the forest opened into a large, circular clearing. At the center stood a tall structure. It wasn't human, and yet, it wasn't entirely alien. The structure was a smooth tower of pale stone, with glowing lines running down its sides. It had an opening at the bottom like a doorway, and faint spirals etched all around it. Ryan stepped closer, studying the strange but familiar design. Then he froze. On the right side of the tower, half buried in the glowing grass, lay a piece of Terran metal. He knelt and brushed the soil away. It was a part of a human stasis chamber, like the one he had woken in. The metal was cracked, the lights long dead, but the Terran research symbol was still visible. Ryan stared at it for several seconds, trying to understand what this meant. "Humans were here," he whispered. "Not just after the storm, but much later. Why had they come to this place, and why leave a stasis component next to an alien-made tower?" He stood and walked toward the tower's entrance. Inside, the air was cool and carried a faint, soft glow. The walls were smooth, with patterns that changed shape slowly, as if the tower itself were breathing. In the center of the room stood a platform. On it, a small sphere floated, glowing gently with blue and white light. It spun slowly, humming faintly. Ryan approached carefully. The sphere responded to his presence, brightening slightly. A memory surfaced in his mind, stories from the earliest researchers before the storm. They had spoken of unknown signals detected deep beneath Earth's surface. Signals no one could explain, signals that seemed alive. "Are you one of those?" he whispered to the sphere. The sphere pulsed brightly, almost like a quiet confirmation. Ryan took another step. The sphere projected a hologram into the air. At first, it was only swirling shapes, but as the shapes formed, he saw a scene from long ago. Humans living in small colonies after the storm, building shelters, raising families, struggling but surviving. Then the image changed. It showed humans approaching glowing beings, like the one Ryan had met. The two sides stood across from each other, unsure, cautious. But then slowly, they moved closer. The beings extended their hands, and the humans responded. A calm partnership began. No battles, no threats, only communication through symbols and gentle gestures. Rian watched in awe. The image shifted again. It showed humans learning from the glowing beings, how to grow new food, how to breathe in regions filled with strange air, how to travel safely through the changed land. The beings guided them, watched over them, protected them. But then the images darkened. A great storm appeared, much larger than the one from 15,000 years ago. It spread across the land, shaking mountains and covering cities. Humans and glowing beings stood together, trying to shield themselves from the storm. Then the image faded completely. Ryan stood alone with the floating sphere, his heart heavy. "You helped us," he whispered. "You tried to protect us." The sphere pulsed gently, almost like a soft nod. "But the storm, did it wipe out the survivors?" he asked quietly. The sphere dimmed for a moment, then projected one last image, a single symbol, a spiral with 3 sharp lines crossing it, the same one he had seen all over the forest. Ryan reached out and touched the symbol in the air. "What does it mean?" The sphere pulsed again. Then, slowly, the symbol began to spin. Inside the spinning shape, new patterns formed. A map appeared, similar to the one the drone had shown him, but clearer. It showed the marked location glowing brighter than before. Ryan stepped back. The sphere floated higher, its light growing stronger. "You're telling me that's where the answers are," he whispered. The sphere rose even higher and released a soft beam of light that pointed through the entrance of the tower, toward a distant mountain range. Ryan stared at the glowing direction. Something awaited him beyond those mountains, something connected to the storms, the silent guardians, and the fate of the last humans. He stepped out of the tower and looked toward the mountains. "I'm coming," he said quietly. The forest hummed softly behind him, as if sending encouragement. With steady steps, Ryan continued his journey. The presence around him grew stronger, clearer, almost as if walking beside him now. And somewhere beyond the mountains, in a place shaped by both humans and the glowing beings, the truth waited. A truth 15,000 years in the making. The sea moved in slow, heavy waves as Ryan Hale stood on the cliff with the Velari beside him. The sky above was strangely quiet, almost as if the world itself was holding its breath. A faint glow shimmered on the horizon, growing brighter with every passing moment. Rian felt a deep pressure in his chest, the same strange presence he had felt since the day he woke from stasis. But now that presence was much stronger, almost overwhelming. The Velari leader, Ceres, stood slightly behind him. Her silver-blue eyes were wide with worry. "The ancient force has awakened," she said softly. "The sea is moving because something beneath it has started to rise." Ryan watched the glowing line widen. The ocean rippled outward in perfect circles, as if something huge was pushing upward from the deepest point. His mind raced. He remembered the last message from his old commander inside the Terran archive. "If you wake, you are our last hope. A force is coming for Earth." Ryan had not wanted to believe it. But now, watching the ocean shine like a second sun, he knew the warning had been true. Ceres took a step forward. "This is the same being our elders feared. They believed it was only a legend, but legends often come from truth. Whatever is waking, it has waited a very long time." Ryan nodded slowly. He could feel it too. A mind. Vast, ancient, and patient. A mind that had recognized him the moment he woke from the stasis pod. The sea erupted. A tower of glowing stone rose from the deep, covered in swirling patterns of light. It was not a creature, not a machine, something in between, something that felt older than Earth itself. The structure reached into the clouds, humming with low vibrations that shook the ground. The Velari fell silent, many stepping back with fear. Saris placed a calm but trembling hand on Ryan's shoulder. "Why does it rise for you? Why now?" Ryan had no clear answer, but he knew one thing. It was connected to humanity, connected to the Terran Alliance, connected to the final plan that had been made 15,000 years ago. The giant structure opened slowly like a flower of light. Inside its core, a sphere hovered, dark, quiet, and heavy with power. The presence in Ryan's mind sharpened. It felt as if someone or something was speaking without words. "You have returned. The cycle will continue." Ryan stepped forward, ignoring the Velari calling his name. "What do you want?" he asked aloud, though he knew the being did not speak like humans. "Why did you wait for a human to wake?" The answer came as a sensation, rather than words. Something like distant memory. Something like a half-seen dream. The being had fought against humanity during the cosmic disaster so long ago. It had not been evil or good, it simply existed with its own purpose. Humanity had defeated it, but they could not destroy it. Instead, they locked it deep in the ocean and set the seal so that only a human mind could awaken it again. Ryan felt his breath tighten. "So you waited for me, for the last human." The being replied through the strange pressure in his mind. The key was needed. The gate must open. The cycle must continue. Ryan tried to stay calm. What cycle? Images filled his thoughts. Stars, collapsing galaxies, worlds reshaped by unseen forces. The being was part of a cosmic pattern that repeated every many thousands of years. Humanity had fought to stop it before. They had almost succeeded, but ascending to a higher form meant leaving one piece unfinished. Earth. Ryan realized he was not just the last human. He was part of the final step in an ancient conflict. Saris approached carefully. "Ryan, you cannot speak to it alone. Let us help." But Ryan shook his head. "It's not speaking. It's trying to continue something humanity started." He looked at the cavern technology device in his hand, the Terran beacon he had activated earlier. The archive had said it stored a connection to humanity's ascended existence, a kind of echo left behind for emergencies. He had not used its full power yet. He had not even understood it completely. Now the sea structure pulsed again, brighter than before. The presence pressed harder into Ryan's mind. His vision blurred, and he felt dizzy. The being was trying to pull something from him: energy, memory, identity. Not to harm him, but to complete the cycle he still did not fully understand. Saris steadied him. "Ryan, you are not meant to face this alone. Your people trusted you, but they also left tools behind. Use what they left." Ryan closed his eyes. "You're right." He lifted the Terran beacon. The small device began to vibrate in his hand, reacting to the cosmic force. A soft white glow surrounded it, growing brighter until it illuminated Ryan's entire body. The being in the ocean tower reacted instantly. Its patterns of light shifted rapidly. The presence inside Ryan's mind became sharper, almost urgent. The gate opens. The echo returns. Ryan raised his voice, though he did not know if the being understood words. "Humanity did not vanish. They rose higher, far beyond what you can reach. They left this world for me to protect." He activated the beacon. A beam of pure white energy shot upward into the sky, cutting through the clouds. The air trembled. The earth hummed. The sea pulled back as if bowing. Above them, space itself seemed to glow, as if a hidden layer of reality was peeling open. The Velari fell to their knees, staring upward. Even Saris, who proudly led her people, could not look away. A gentle voice echoed in Ryan's mind, different from the ancient force. Calm, familiar, warm. Child of Earth. You are not alone. Ryan gasped. It was the echo of humanity. Not physical beings, but a higher presence that had always remained just out of reach. When humanity had ascended long ago, they left behind threads of their essence, waiting for a call like this. Light poured from the sky like rain. It touched the ocean tower, wrapping the ancient force in a shining cocoon. The pressure in Ryan's mind eased. The being, once strong and determined, now felt confused and small, as if humanity's presence reminded it of something it had forgotten long ago. The echo spoke again. The cycle ends here. The tower cracked softly, its patterns fading to gray. The sphere at its center dimmed, gently lowering into the sea as if it were falling asleep. The light in the sky slowly faded. The beacon cooled in Ryan's hand. The air stilled once more. For a long moment, no one spoke. The Velari only watched the ocean with wide, silent eyes. Finally, Saris stepped beside Ryan. "Is it gone?" Ryan shook his head. "Not gone. Resting. The echo didn't destroy it. It only stopped the cycle. Maybe one day it can learn a peaceful purpose." Saris looked at him thoughtfully. "And what about you? Now that your people have answered your call?" Ryan stared at the horizon, where the last glow of humanity's echo disappeared. "I think they trusted me to carry their legacy. They didn't come back physically. They came back to help for a moment. And that moment was enough." He turned toward the Velari city in the distance. "Earth needs a new beginning, new guardians, new hope." Saris smiled gently. "And you will lead it?" Ryan nodded. "Not as the last human, but as the first human of a new era." The wind brushed across the cliff, carrying the scent of the transformed earth. The sea was calm now, the sky clear. Ryan stood tall, feeling the weight of 15,000 years behind him and the promise of a new future ahead. Earth was no longer a forgotten world. It was a world ready to rise again.